what do you think of Barack Obama being the first black president?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of opinions on that too. I mean, I know like a lot of people in the multiracial community, like I've heard all kinds of debate over that. And I consider him a mixed person, mixed president, but I can certainly understand many of the reasons why he is identified publicly as I've heard that he's identified as a black man of multiracial background. And I certainly understand the political and possibly personal reasons why he might identify openly more as a black person. I get very mad though if I identify him or if I refer to him as mixed and somebody says to me, no, he's not, he's black.
Right.
Because then I feel like my reasons for doing that, my experience and my like shared experience is being trivialized in their mind. So
what can we do to...
It does require that. It requires like making people uncomfortable. Because
Yeah.
I actually love doing that so many times in public. Like I don't think my hair makes people uncomfortable, but it's you know, it's a way of putting my multiracial pride out on my sleeve. I mean, I cut it for other reasons right now. It's a maintenance issue, but I'm growing it back out again, so don't worry.
Do you miss it?
Yeah.
Do you feel like that identifies you as mixed?
Well, it's weird because back when my hair was short, I didn't feel like I had a signature physical feature that just screamed out mixed to people, and I wanted that. But then when I grew my hair out, I'm like, yeah, that's it. Like, it's obvious now. But now that I've cut it, when I look in the mirror, I still feel mixed, and I still feel like, even though I don't have this like very obvious thing, I still feel like if somebody was going to try to put me in a box, they'd have trouble doing that, which is what I like. I like when people are confused and don't know what to do, because I feel like it's an opportunity to have a learning experience and things like that.
When you were growing up, were there any biracial people that you... was Derek Jeter already famous when you were
I grew up like
young?
in the 90s.
Yeah.
And
Ben Harper, Lenny Kravitz. Did you identify
I mean, like,
with
no,
him
I
at all?
knew, like, okay, it was kind of like when I was a kid,
Yeah.
like elementary school, I don't think there was any that I could like clearly see, like, yeah, you know, that person's like me. And of course, I would get really excited if I ever did meet somebody or hear of somebody that was like me. And then, as I started getting a little older, like I started hearing of like Lenny Kravitz and Halle Berry and Mariah Carey, and just like the few that like immediately come to mind for a lot of people. But in terms of like a mixed role model or something like that, no, I never.
Do you think that was because those people don't really seem to identify as mixed?
Or people don't identify
them as mixed, either way.
Because, you know, it was. I think for me, yeah, it was a surprise when I found out Halle Berry was mixed and Lenny Kravitz and Mariah Carey. All like, I was like, oh wow, they are. Like, how come I didn't know that this whole time? Like same thing with like when Halle Berry won the Oscar and they kept saying she's the first black woman. Like, I can understand, because like I can understand why that's important, and I'm not saying that she's not the first black woman. I don't say that, because I feel like Halle Berry is black, she's white, and she's both, and she's neither, all at the same time.
Right.
So I feel like they're not like mutually exclusive categories. Like, we have like a layered identity. But I also question if it were the other way around, like if I were to win an Oscar, and let's just say there had been no black men to ever win an Oscar, and I, like, Best Actor, and I won, would people be saying Phillip is the first black man to win Best Actor? Like, I don't know about that.
Right. Well, I always say if Jennifer Beals had won for Flashdance instead of Halle Berry.
Exactly. If she would have won,
what
like,
would the story be?
I don't think there would have been quite as much of a commotion or, like, public thing about, yes, this is the first black woman.
So what do you think, what is whiteness in America? Is it just a look and a privilege that goes along with that look?
It's a little. I completely agree with that, but I also think it's like a set of values or political like subscription or whatever. So like there are many people who are people of color, and they might not even have much whiteness in them, but they are echoing white privilege in the things that they say, or you know they can be. You know, you can have somebody who is a person of color who just hates everything that's not white and just glorifies everything that is white. And clearly they are not white, but they're still, you know what I mean? They're still like espousing that. So I think whiteness definitely has to do with like a look, but also like, I guess, I don't know if I'm making any sense.
You are to me.
But it has to do with certain features, or like a direction towards, you know, more European looking features, lighter skin, like straighter, lighter hair, lighter eyes, thinner lips, things like that. But it also has to do with, I think, the politics that defend the privilege that goes along with those things.
Yes. So it seems to me like that's kind of selfish. It seems like it's about preserving this status. How could we entice people to want to let go of that so that everything's more equal?
Well, I've actually studied a lot of that stuff. I was a sociology major in college, so I'm really interested in that stuff. And I think what's important is it's hard, but we need to start having an honest conversation about what it means to be people of color, but also what it means to be white. Because I know a lot of times when you're privileged, I might take for granted the fact that I'm like able-bodied right now, and I don't have to think about all the things that maybe somebody in a wheelchair would have to think about. So a lot of times we might take it for granted and might not think of certain things. And I think it's important that we have reminders of just what it means. So for example, you know that whole thing with Henry Louis Gates, and that was a situation that probably was not news to a lot of black people, but let's start hearing the experiences of white people with the police. You know, what do they go through, and then let's have a discussion on why is there such a difference between those two. And I think also what's important is, even though there's a lot of privilege that goes along with being white or being a male or being straight or any of these identities, it also, I think, constrains your humanity. It makes us less of what we were really meant to be. And to recognize
everyone, like both sides.
Yes, exactly. And to recognize that, and to realize that I do have a choice to not live this way, or to not see the world this way, and to become a better person. So basically, like if we were trying to make like a more racially equal thing, a lot of times there's this fear of giving up the privileges that I have. So it's the fear of what I'm losing, but we need to, I think, reorient our brains to say, well, what am I gaining? What am I personally gaining for myself and my humanity and who I am as a person and just everything? In the long run, it is materialistic for everybody.
For everyone.
Yeah, but short term, personally, I think it's more of like an intangible kind of thing. But I think there's definitely some costs. There's some downsides to being privileged. And I think that if people, once again, I think if we have these conversations, people will be more willing to work towards, I think everybody will be more willing to work towards equality, because equality can kind of scare the people that are on the top.
Right.
And I think equality is a much better alternative. But so I think, yeah, just realizing what we all have to gain is I guess the first thing we can do.
I think part of the problem is that this whole thing started for material gain, exploiting a group of people for the material gain of another. So I think part of the idea of America, even though we say liberty and justice for all, is that you want to get as much as you can.
Yeah,
it's just, but I think it's also intertwined, that's why the discussion can go on forever. What do you think then? What is blackness? We are in danger sometimes of being accused of not being black enough or not knowing our culture. And I think if someone just talks to me and hears what I sound like or what music might be playing on my iPod right now, does that really have anything to do with blackness? What's your take on blackness, I guess, is all I'm asking.
That's always changed. My whole opinion on that has always been evolving, because I think when I was younger, I was always asking, well, what is whiteness? What is blackness? What do I have to do to be more white or be more black? And whenever I tried, I always was unsuccessful, because you can't really fully be something like white or black. These are socially constructed categories that are supposed to homogenize groups, and I'm not a group, I'm a person, you know? If I was gonna, like, since, like, my definition of whiteness was very, like, sociological, political kind of thing, I guess if I was gonna give that kind of definition for blackness, I guess it would be kind of, it's gonna sound bad at first, I think, but, I think it's gonna sound good towards the end, but okay. I think it's just, blackness is just the opposite of that. So it's just the opposite of the privilege that I was talking about. It's like blackness kind of means bottom of the totem pole in terms of status, but there's a lot of good. Even though there's a lot of bad that goes with it, I think there's a lot of good that goes with it, because I think when you are like a person who's part of an oppressed group, you have to, or I have to summon inner strength to get up every day that not everybody has tapped into, and that kind of thing can make me very like the kind of like internal fortitude that I can now muster up because of what I have to face every day. It makes me a much stronger and more complete human being. So I definitely see that in African American culture, and that's something that I'm very, very proud of, you know, and that's why I also get upset like when somebody says that, you know, I'm not black enough or I don't know anything, because I mean I don't think I'm an expert on like African American history, but I stay up on it. My dad has taught me a lot, and I'm very, very proud.
It's so important to me.
It's very empowering, you know. It's empowering to know that, you know, despite all of the atrocious things that have happened, it is like I feel like I'm not trying to like undermine other ethnic groups that have come to the United States, but like African Americans have been here longer than pretty much every other ethnic group as an identifiable, and they have and African American culture has just been like the backbone of like so many like social movements and forms of like art and entertainment and culture and just everything. It's like it's everywhere, and a lot of times we might not realize how so much of our world today has to do with African Americans, but it really, really does. So, and I think part of that has to do with that. The reason why that's been able to happen is because of that struggle that so many have had to go through, and just finding the strength to get up every day and face the world. It's even though it's very sad, it's created some very beautiful things because of it. So I guess that's what blackness means to me.
Okay, thank you. I went to predominantly white schools as well, and I think I didn't come to that really deep understanding and appreciation and excitement even about African American history till I got to college. Yeah. Was that similar to you? Because I mean, I think all history books are skewed a certain way. Yeah. But I think when you're in that environment of the people who probably wrote the book, it's just like, oh yeah, of course that's true.
Yeah, well, I actually started getting, started being interested in what people aren't telling me, like when I was, in high school, but I really started, it was still, very embryonic. It was still, the beginning.
Right.
And then once I got to college, I went to Rutgers, very diverse school, and there's a very, pretty sizable African-American, just black community there, and that's one of the first organizations I joined was a black organization, and yeah, definitely, and the classes that I took, and just the people that I met, and just the conversations that we had, definitely just kicked it into another gear.
It was for me that time when I think back on that was just so exciting and.
Yeah, because I just remember, especially in a class that I took called The Black Experience in America, just every time after class I'd be leaving damn.
Yeah, and
there's so much I did not know, you know? Why hasn't this been taught to me and so many other people?